We appreciate you, and we humbly welcome you to our show. The voice that you are now hearing is that of yours truly, Captain Glenwood Alexander Bain. Most people refer to me as Captain Bain. My friends at Calpen Building Supplies, however, call me Captain. Our manager at our Freeport office, Mrs. Lydia Ferguson Henfield, calls me Cap. Some are rather formal and call me Mr. Bain. And of course, my family and close friends know me simply as Glenn. But I'm not touchy with how I'm referred to at all. Like my friend Preston used to say back in the day, you can call me anything at any time, but just don't call too late. This is show number 3, people. We've had 2 shows already, and we're only 3rd in, 3 deep. This one promises to be quite ecstatic. Our sponsors for the night is One-on-One Pharmacy. Listen, you want good treatment? Whenever you need medication, check out One-on-One Pharmacy. My little cousin Shantia Heel McBride will make sure you're straight. Her and her lovely team at One-on-One Pharmacy. They will fill your subscriptions at the store, or you can send your refills in online. The online site is oneononepharmacy.com. That's oneononepharmacy, all lowercase, all one word, .com. There are 2 locations. East Street South, opposite the FML building. You know when we say, everybody wins. The second location is on Charles Saunders Highway in the Island Lot Plaza. When you walk in, you will be treated with royalty. You will feel the presence of goodness. Say hello to my good cousin Stephanie when you go there. And of course, tell them Maritime Matters sent you for that good treatment. And we're also sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. That's BMC. Hey, that's me. Oh yeah, that's my company. Okay. We provide a full slate of ISPS Maritime Security Services. That being ISPS assessments, plans, audits, training, ISPS consultancy, and so on. We give you the whole 9 yards. To the listening audience out there in Radio Land, it would be remiss of me to go on any further and not introduce my wonderful producer. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the insatiable, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the one and only Craig Gibson. Yay, Craig! Please take a bow for the audience, my friend. Let them know you run things up in here. Maritime Matters airs weekly at 19:30. And yeah, that's 7 p.m. every Tuesday here on Love 97 FM. And as I explained the last time, the last 2 shows, 19:30 simply is one of the 24-hour time on the clock. The times are expressed in minutes. So once 2400 minutes has passed, you start again with 1 minute. So the first minute of the day after midnight would be 0001. And then that goes into an hour, which is 0100, representing 100 minutes. And then we go 0200 and straight up to 1200. 1200 minutes. We call it 1200 hours, which really saying, you know, it's been 1200 hours. Of course, every hour being 60 minutes. And when you get to 1200 hours, you go to 1259, and after 59 comes 1300. And that keeps going up to 1900, 2100, and that's how we do the 24 hours. Well, so it's really simple. It may sound a little difficult, but once you start to do it and you start running, it's really, really easy to keep going. Maritime Matter, the purpose of this show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. Last week, you would have heard the great, insatiable Captain Ernst Taylor, the owner of about 5 or 6 mailboats, and a man who has put well over 60 years in the maritime industry. Of course, we have another dynamic guest for you tonight. As every episode, we will have an exciting guest, either currently or previously engaged in maritime activities. Tonight is no exception. We have an incredibly dynamic maritime agency expert that has made significant contributions to ship agency services in the Bahamas for well over 30 years. As always, you can expect a lively, informative, and tastefully provocative conversation. I promise you. Halfway through the show, we will open the phone lines. Meantime, allow me to give my views on some recent maritime matters. Last week we talked about the Genting Hong Kong. And just to remind you a bit, who is the Genting Hong Kong group? They own Crystal Cruises, and as you know, 2 ships are arrested off Freeport by the Supreme Court, an Admiralty Marshal arrest. Genting Hong Kong also owns Dream Cruises, and together, those 2 cruise ship companies account for more than 3.5% of the world cruise ship fleet. They only fall 5th behind Carnival Cruise Lines, RCI, which is Royal Caribbean International, NCL, which is Norwegian Cruise Line, and TUI Cruises. I don't know who they is, but it make no sense to be trying to fool you. I had to find out for that show. So you see, these guys are huge players in the cruise ship world. They're even larger than Disney Cruises, believe it or not. Disney falls 6 right behind them. In 2016, the Genting Hong Kong group went out and they bought, after buying the cruise ships, the Crystal Cruises, they went out and they bought a dry dock, a shipyard in East Germany, and named it the MV Werften. Now, from this shipyard, they built 1 or 2 yachts. And then they went on to the big dance. They was building the 2nd largest class of cruise ship in the world, behind the Oasis class. This one being called the Global class. The ships are 208,000 gross tons. And this is only the 2nd class of ship that broke the barrier of the 200,000 gross tons in cruise ships. The only other 200,000 plus cruise ships would have been the Oasis class ships under RCCL, or Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. So this ship that it's in the cradle, 80% built so far, it would be able to carry 9,500 passengers. Now, no cruise ship today carry more than 7,000 passengers. So this one would by far carry more people than any other cruise ship ever in the world. So this new ship, the Global Dream is the name of it, and that was only the first of 2 that should have been built. This is a big leaguer. It's only 80% complete, and after that 80% complete, the Genting group, the Genting Hong Kong group brothers, remember now we have Genting, Genting companies in Malaysia, and we have a Genting company also in Singapore. So this one from Hong Kong is the one that owned all these ships, and they bought the dry dock that was building the largest ship which belonged to them, and as a result, COVID came in and things went haywire, and they started to owe, and they owe and dropped far back on time until they ran up a debt of over $3.5 billion to their creditors, thus falling into bankruptcy last month. So their assets are in the process of being auctioned off. The Crystal Cruises ship, Crystal Symphony and Crystal Serenity, remain under Admiralty arrest. It seems likely that they will be sold via the Supreme Court Admiralty procedure to the highest bidder. The second current maritime matter is the sinking of maritime management tanker, the Tropic Breeze, which is 160 feet in length. It was sank by the 207-foot super yacht Utopia 4 at about 22:03. That would be 10:03 p.m. 22:03 on December 23rd. We continue to wait the completion or release of the investigation report. We've been advised that the U.S. Coast Guard, along with Bahamas Maritime Authority rep, along with the port department rep, in the process of completing what they consider an investigation into the sinking of the tropic breeze. Thirdly, we discussed the sinking of the small vessel off Florida that departed Bimini that Friday, and they had some 40 persons on board, and we only found one person actually holding on to the vessel, and the other 39 persons are unaccounted for. And we said how dangerous it was, especially in these choppy times, to be using small boats to traffic people. Those are lives, to traffic people across to Florida, whether it be from Bimini, whether it be from Freeport, West End, wherever it be from. It's a dangerous thing. You're not dealing with drugs, you're dealing with lives. So, we have to caution our people, please desist when it comes to putting lives at risk. You have a new entry coming in at number 4. And that one is in the news. It's a ship called the Disney Wish. They just flew it out of the dry dock called Meerwerft, which is also in Germany. And this is the ship, this is the dry dock here that built their last 2 ships. And they have 3, like the Disney Wish, actually being made at this time. Now, this first one is actually in the water. They have assembled it. It took them 10 months to assemble it. And once they got through, they put it in the water to continue fitting it so that it can get into service. And in July, it is scheduled to go into service. And the route, believe it or not, is going to be here in the Bahamas. And that's why I made the list. And that's why it's so important. Now, this ship is almost twice the size of the Disney Magic and Disney One, and the very first ships that Disney had, because it's 144,000 gross tons. So this puts it way above most cruise ships in the world in size. And this one actually is being installed in it LNG engine. So it's not a regular engine. It's liquefied natural gas, and it's going to burn clean. And it's going to be in our water, so we want it to burn clean. And it's really going to add to the 4 Disney ships that are operating in our area now. We will now have 5, so that's more people coming to the Bahamas. And we love it. The ports would be Nassau, coming out of Port Canaveral, going into Disney Key, which is Castaway Key, and then that would be the Disney Wish moving around. It wouldn't go into any other country outside of the U.S. And in the U.S., it's only going into home port in Port Canaveral. So the 2 stops that would make Nassau would be the major stop, and then, of course, their private island, Castaway Key. So we got to, continue to thank the Heavenly Stars for Disney Cruises, which is really doing well in the Bahamas and really assisting us with keeping things together as far as our financial situation is concerned. So there it is. Those are our current Maritime Matters in a nutshell, good people. We are talking maritime, and tonight we're talking ship agency. Our guest tonight is an ultimate ship agent guru. When it comes to ship agency activities, this brother's climbed to the mountaintop, wrestled with the Buddha Dane, and chewed on the betel nut. So brace yourself for a highly informative and immensely provocative maritime discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Maritime Matters. At this point, I once again highlight our 4 maritime standouts of the past. May their souls continue to rest in peace. First of these giants is my good friend and mentor, RBDF Senior Commander Amos Rowe. We call him the Fuhrer. We call him Famous Amos. Secondly, we have the first native Bahamian port controller, Mr. Leon Flowers, who served in that capacity in the port department for over 50 years before retiring. Such a man, quite a man. The third maritime standout is the man that we all gave his own song to. Roddy Gray, Captain Roddy Gray, the legendary master sailor of Family Island Regattas. His Excellency, Captain Roddy Gray. Last, and certainly the most famous of them all, I bring to you the spirit of the Sea Wolf, our great Olympic gold medalist, Sir Dermot knows. We're talking maritime. Welcome to Maritime Matters. At this point, we're up for our first break, and when we return, we will engage tonight's guest on Maritime Matters. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I am all about maritime and all about ship agency. Have for you prepared a show that's going to be extremely provocative. Now, we have a delay in our guest as he just called in and said that he had an emergency and he's on his way. So until my guest is here, I will not announce who it is. As soon as he comes in, we will engage him. And in the meantime, since our topic is on ship agency, we will go ahead and address some of the matters with ship agency and with maritime in our country. That being said, we will open the lines immediately, if not before. The line to call in, as soon as we start our show, as soon as we start our questions, I will give my response, and you can chime in if you want. And we have a series of questions here that will be answered, and your help will be most welcomed. 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Please feel free to call whenever you're ready to do so. One of the first big questions I have on my list is, are the requirements mandated by the Fall Convention being met in Bahamian ports of entries? Now we talk about the Fall Convention. The Fall Convention is really about facilitating visiting international ships. Ships under the IMO setting are not supposed to be unduly delayed. So there's a convention called the FAL or FAL Convention, Facilitation Convention, that requires that when a ship comes in, and they just had an amendment in 2009, when a ship comes in, all information pertaining to that ship should be electronically shared among all the entities concerned. That would be customs, that would be immigration, that would be Ministry of Agriculture, that would be the police, that would be the harbor control. All of those entities should have electronically copies of all the activities surrounding that ship. That's what the Fall Convention requires. And when our guest comes in, he's going to answer whether or not the agencies that we have up and going in this country are ensure that those things are being fully complied with. Now I go to waste management. These large ships coming in, I know last week and week before we mentioned the waste from these ships. Is waste disposed from ships, that's solid waste and liquid waste, to our domestic dump sites, properly handled and managed at our dump site? If you want to chime in and answer on this, we know that tons and tons of solid waste are taken in from Prince George Wharf, from the cruise ships, and taken to the dump site on a routine, ongoing basis. And so the question for my agent tonight is these dump sites, when these goods are taken to the dump site, are they properly handled and managed at the dump site? So if you want to chime in on that, please feel free. My view is to some extent they are, but I want to hear the view from the agent. We have another question, which would be, are records verified to ascertain that ballast water from car carriers, tankers, etc., was exchanged at a safe distance prior to entering the waters of the Bahamas? Now, the international convention called MARPOL, which is responsible for maritime pollution or prevention of maritime pollution at sea, requires that once a ship is coming to your port, that ship coming from far distances, like on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean and that type of thing, when they deballast, because ships ballast for stability, they have to take on water in their ballast tanks so that they wouldn't do as much rocking and they go deep in the water and all the rest of it. So they get heavy, in other words. That's what you call ballasting. And just before they reach where they really want to go, they deballast. And as they start to take off cargo, and the ship starts to get light again, they start taking on ballast again to try and keep the ship down and balanced. So they're ballasting and deballasting all the time. But what happens with a ship coming out of South Africa, for example, and they take on ballast to make the voyage across the Atlantic? That ballast that they took on, or seawater, that's what it is, that they took on for stability purposes, when they reach the Bahamas, that ship is not supposed to keep that ballast in there and release it in the waters of the Bahamas or in any other country unless they are more than 200 miles away from the next destination. And in addition to that, the water that they discharge, that ballast, before they take on fresh ballast in that area, has to be more than 200 meters, 2,000, meters deep. So it has to be in the ocean. And why are we deballasting and ballasting? We know it's for stability purposes, but we also know that if you have certain species, microorganisms, that they pick up in one set of water, and it may be very invasive when it gets its destination, it can wreak havoc on the fishery products and all that other stuff that the destination may have, because the water, the species, all those organisms in the water are not compatible, and they can kind of wipe out your area as far as your underwater life is concerned. And you know, as we say in maritime, everything on top of the water is maritime, everything below the surface of the water is marine. So we want our marine life to be sustained, and the water recognizes that. So the IMO put in place in the convention, the MARPOL Convention, or Maritime Pollution Prevention Convention, that once that ship is approaching its destination, it has to exchange its ballast over 200 miles out. So, if you want to chime in on that question, please feel free to call in. The numbers again, 326-8255. We continue on Maritime Matters. And we got some questions coming up that's really going to raise some eyebrows. Another question for you. Have the ongoing oozing of oil at Clifton Pier been alleviated? Now, for those who don't know, for many, many years, we had oil seeping into the shoreline at Clifton Pier where those big tankers come in. And there was an effort to stop that oil by creating a dock structure and closing everything in on the land side. But even after that was completed, there was still oozing of oil in some cases. And you may not be aware, but if a ship comes in to do a cargo trade, a tanker for example, and that oil sheen gets on the hull, and that ship leaves here and goes into another country, the United States, wherever it goes from here, South America, and the ports inspectors see that sheen on the ship, that ship could be fined. So, you know, it's very important that we in the Bahamas ensure that, we have a call on the line, we in the Bahamas ensure that this type of thing is really not happening in our waters. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Maritime Matters. Yes, sir. Comment on the question. Go right ahead, my friend.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Dean. Yeah, this is the question. Let me turn on my radio.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let me turn on my radio. 1 second. Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly, my friend. Go right ahead.
Okay, good. So this question comes from the Wilson family, and, you know, the comment is, it is so amazing that until you came to a show like this, the general public was not aware of she said she didn't even know about all of these deaths in the sea. I mean, and we know that constantly Haitian vessels coming from the southeast, and yes, that happens along the way. But it's just amazing that until a show like this came across the airwaves into the general public, where you, and it appears that your intent is to keep us up abreast of what is going on, and we commend you for that. And that Clifton Pier situation that you was just talking about, I was wondering if that matter has been resolved.
Well, Mr. Wilson, thank you for your question, and I appreciate you enjoying and appreciating our show. But that's the reason why I need my guests to be here, because I have not been out there in recent times often enough to see if that continues. But we will find out, and if it continues, by way of shows like this, we're going to make sure that that item is addressed. So we're going to hold our horses until the guest comes in. He should be quite aware. He knows more about this than I do. And I will certainly put that question to him and let him know that the Wilsons want to know if that matter has been resolved.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
you're coming to 505 and you sound great. But thank you for a show like this.
Beautiful. I appreciate you, my friend. And please continue to listen.
Okay.
So there we go. That question about the seepage at Clifton Pier of oil, we will find out for sure, and we will make sure that if it is not already addressed properly, it will be. We will put pressure to it to ensure that we get rid of that problem. Now, here's another question that seems to be very controversial. The Nassau Cruise Port. Why does the Nassau Cruise Port have foreign owners? Why can't we own the Nassau Cruise Port? It was not necessary for foreign ownership when APD called on the line. I'll be right with you. It's not necessary for foreign ownership when APD was being approached. That's our port development. We got full funding from Bahamians, and that is fully owned by Bahamians. Bahamian raised all the necessary funds. It was actually oversubscribed, because I remember getting some of my money back. And even returned, the excess funds were even returned. The exact same situation occurred when the Nassau Cruise Port asked for funding, $150 million. Bahamians oversubscribed, they got the $150 million, and had to return monies back to some Bahamians. Couldn't we have applied the same concept to Nassau Cruise Port that was adopted for the airport project with NAD, Nassau Airport Development? In other words, they contracted the experienced company out of Canada to manage to manage the airport project and the airport once it was in place. And then after that, eventually Bahamians basically took over all ramps. So the Bahamas still owns the airport, and we have professionals running it. So why can't we do something like that for Nassau Cruise Port? Okay, let's go to the caller. You are Maritime Matters caller. Thank you very much for calling.
Good morning, Captain Moore, Captain G here, and you're doing a good job.
Appreciate it, Captain G. Good to hear your voice, my friend.
Well, now, here's my question. You've been in the maritime scene for many years.
Well over 40 years now.
Exactly. Now, on the Bahamas, the main Bahamas out in the maritime space, I think that was obvious. What would you say? What would you say the government would need to do to increase the technical capacity of the Bahamians to get into the marine field, so that we are making full use of our maritime space? I'm talking about getting involved in the oceanography and marine science, that sort of thing. What would be your recommendations to the government?
All right, sir. Thank you for that question. Now, as far as the government providing opportunities for Bahamians in the maritime sector, we have a few situations right now. For example, we got the Marine Tanker Company. That company provides fuel for all the family islands out of Clifton Bay. that company is being operated with over 90% professional Bahamians. The ones that are not Bahamians are primarily engineers. And for some reason, the Bahamas is not tapped into the maritime or marine engineering areas. And we need to catch up in engineers. But we got captains for almost everything. If you think about the company Bahamas Ferries. Bahamas Ferries have a slew of captains that take those vessels all around the Bahamas and in and out of the U.S. Those captains are properly qualified for those size vessels, and they're all Bahamians. They have engineers on staff that are quite capable of overhauling those engines and keeping all the machinery going. And I can call a few names like my friend Lord Brooks, who used to be on the Defense Force. I can call names like Kevin Ramming, who used to sail on the Freeport Flyer as second engineer. You know, top quality, high-end engineers that are keeping that company going. So there's no way people can tell me we don't have Bahamians in this country that could be doing those things. But where we fall short to your question, Captain Godfrey Rowe, where we fall short, we have the largest maritime, call I see you on the line, I'll be with you in a minute. We have the largest maritime entity in the Bahamas, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. And we have captains, engineers, and the like. And none of them are commercially qualified. And I think we are missing it when these persons operating those size vessels in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force are not properly qualified. Because those people will set the standards for everybody else, and as they move in and out of the Defense Force, we will have more qualified people available in the industry. All right, caller. Caller, you're live. Maritime Matters. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Well, you said I did not.
Oh,
But this is what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Don't you think it would be worthwhile for the government to scholarship like they have for the issue? Don't you think it might make sense for them to settle certain percentage of that aside to encourage young people to go into the maritime field?
Well, actually,
that would be a sensible move on the government side.
it would be a very sensible move on the government side, but yeah, actually, we have a lot of scholarships in maritime, Godfrey. We have the Bahamas Ship Owners Association, which is part of the Bahamas Maritime Authority, along with the Bahamas Maritime Authority, that sent scores of Bahamians up to college on Prince Edward Island in Canada to do 6-month training, etc., etc. We've had students being sent off to California Maritime Academy, and they became ship officers based on that scholarship. We have Campbell Shipping that has people, students being sponsored by various maritime entities to do officers, deck officers, and engineer officers training. So we have a good source of people being trained. But where we fall short is once these people receive the training, it's very difficult for them to get a berth on a ship. And I can tell you because I have 2 daughters that went through that process, and a series of people come to my office from time to time saying that they're qualified, but they can't find a ship. Nobody's getting them a ship. They have Campbell Shipping that provided berths for almost all of them. But of course, Campbell Shipping, I don't think operates the way it previously operates, whereby some of those ships have been transferred from the Bahamas operation to somewhere in India.
And we're flying state, and so there ought to be some of our people assigned to the ship. But thank you very much, Captain Bain. Thank you for your answer, and continue to do a good job.
Yes, Captain Wood, I appreciate you, my friend, and thank you for calling. And anytime you want to call, please feel free. There you go, people. We need opportunities, and this show is about opportunities for Bahamians. We cannot get too many opportunities. We have, like I was saying, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, which is the largest employer for maritime. So there's no reason why somebody going through the Defense Force are not qualified commercially for what, and I can say that because I was in the Defense Force. And I didn't know anything about commercial qualification until I was transferred to the Port Department. And once I found out, I went off to school in Fort Lauderdale and I did all the various courses and I was able to get my certification. And once I got my certification, the doors were flung wide open in the maritime field for me to move and do a lot of things and even run the company that I run now. So we have a vast amount of potential in the Defense Force. We need to garner that into getting opportunities by way of qualifying to do commercial activities in the Bahamas, and we can talk about a lot of those commercial activities in short order. So we just finished discussing the approach with Nassau Cruise Port. The approach with Nassau Cruise Port to end up, is that line 3? Is that available or that's okay? Nassau Cruise Port being locally owned by Bahamians, and we as Bahamians, just like we did with the airport, hiring people to hiring entities that deal with cruise ports, and they come in on contract to work for the Bahamian people that we have proven that we can raise the funds. So they work for us, the IPO goes out to us, and they work for us, and we will continue to own and reap all the profits from Nassau Cruise Port, as opposed to a foreign entity coming in and doing the same thing, and all of the profits going to them and not to the Bahamian people. So I got another entry coming in here. That would be the harbor of Morgan's Bluff. Now, for those of you who don't know what Morgan's Bluff is in North Andros. It's the most northern port in North Andros. And Morgan's Bluff is the port where we used to barge water. When Nassau wasn't doing all that reverse osmosis, water making in-house, we barged water in from Andros. And as you know, Andros is a big land with plenty of water. We couldn't get too much water from Andros. So in order for those big barges and those big ships, tanker barges, to go into Andros and out of Andros full. When you go in, they're empty and they're high, but once they're full, they're almost even with the surface of the sea because they're really low down in the water. So we have to dig a harbor deep enough for them, and then they need to turn in space once they get in harbor to get to that wharf where they actually took on all their water. And they only took water one way from Andros and Nassau. They took nothing going back the other way. But the humans, the Morgan's Bluff is no longer being utilized for barging of water. But the infrastructure for ships to enter and leave Morgan's Bluff remain in place. There's deep water, and there's a sturdy wharf space and a lot of wharf space. So could we, the people, approach making this a cruise ship reception facility? Can we, the people, buy into an IPO to be owners of Morgan's Bluff, and with the funds have Morgan's Bluff modified to receive cruise ships? Because right now we got Freeport and Nassau. We don't have any other port in the Bahamas except Bimini. Now Bimini receives ships basically from anywhere that requests. But all the other ports in the Bahamas where cruise ships go are owned, and those ports are owned by the cruise ship companies, and only their cruise ship go there. So they're not open to other cruise ships using it. So we need more ports. So how about, since Morgan's Bluff is sitting there doing nothing, how about us getting an IPO to get the experts to come in, and we pay that company based on the funds that we raise to get that up and going as a cruise ship port, and once that is up and going as a cruise ship port, the profits from that operation would then go to the Bahamian people that owns it. Can we jump on that now and not wait for a cruise ship company to take that from us? I think that's where we need to go, people. Let's think about what is ours and what we should be getting from ours. Moving along the line, because nobody has no question on that one, so we move along. We know that the Bahamas spans over a vast area with any number of developed islands. Similar to that of the Eastern Caribbean, eh? If you take the Caribbean, the Bahamas, and sit them in the Eastern Caribbean, it's almost the same size, almost the same amount of habited big islands. Yet, we have only 3 reception facilities. I got a call on the line. So let me just get that call quickly. But we're going to finish this train of thought with the Bahamas and the Eastern Caribbean, the comparison, how there's so much similarities, and how we are not pulling our weight like they are there. This is Maritime Matters. Calling you all live. Thank you.
Good evening, Captain Brain. This is Captain Brain. How are you?
Captain Herbie Brain. I am in top shape, my friend. Doing it all by myself. I'm just loving when you call in. Go right ahead, my brother.
Well, I had to call because, you know, I know that you will talk forever, and I wanted to give you a break.
Forever and a day. Forever and a day, my brother. Go right ahead.
Just to piggyback on, I would have heard the call from Captain Guthrie Rowe on opportunities, and just before I comment on your Morgan Club situation, the maritime industry, as you rightfully put it, is ripe with opportunities, you know. For example, we have, you mentioned the Defense Force, and we have an obligation in terms of our, say, port state control obligation to about 15% of the international fleet that come to our shores we should inspect, yes?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, right now we have one port state control inspector here in the Bahamas, and it's virtually impossible for us to fulfill that particular obligation with the one port state control officer. When we were, many years ago, I recall, we would have advanced a proposition to the BMA to train about 30 BDF, Defense Force Marines in ship inspections and the like. We would have engaged the United States Coast Guard to assist with the training and the certification and the like. And unfortunately, that never happened. But that right there alone is an effort that is one way that we can employ the Bahamians in the maritime sector and get them trained as port state control officers, which we really need because we only have one such person in the whole of the Bahamas locally to do it.
That is correct. And let me just interject there for a second. While you're on that train of thought, and while you're bringing up port state inspections, you would know too that in Florida, or in the entire U.S., who does that port state control inspections?
The United States Coast Guard.
The United States Coast Guard, and they got numerous offices all over the place, what they call Maritime Safety Office. And in those offices, when they send somebody to inspect a ship, be it a cruise ship, be it a tanker, be it a coastal freighter, they always send at least 2 or 3 people. Sometimes they send up to 5 people to do one inspection on one ship.
Indeed, and you're absolutely correct. I fortunately, during my training in the past, I was fortunate to work with the Coast Guard out of Miami doing ship inspections, and regularly we used to have 4 or 5 officers go on board ships and whatnot. And it what it does, it creates for not only the Defense Force, but also other young Bahamians who would then benefit from seeing those folks in the field and wanting to pursue such careers. And then you have other things that we can put in the fray. Like, for example, you have the ensuring that those recommendations were implemented. But if we have a local safety certificate, what that will do, that will essentially raise the level of safety in the local boating environment. And that is greatly needed. I'm talking about from the commercial fisherman to the recreational boater. If you and the mail boats, and everybody will benefit from it. And not only will they benefit in terms of safety, but the marine environment, which is something that's very, very important to the Bahamas in general, will benefit because we will have a greater appreciation, more people will have a greater appreciation for the environment, and we will protect this same environment that has given us sustenance for so many years.
But Herbie, let me just interject here again, because when you talk about a local safety certificate, and ships requiring to have a local safety certificate, that actually calls for surveys. Those ships would need to be surveyed, and surveyors would start to get better and better. And once you start surveying small ships, and you continue doing that, and then you start surveying larger ships that are going in the regional area under the Caribbean Code and small boat, small vessel craft, small commercial vessel craft regulations, and then that same surveyor can eventually move on to become an actual flag state inspector. That means all of those 1,500 ships that are carrying the Bahamas flag, that person will now be able to go on one of those ships and carry out the annual inspection of that ship that is required by all ships registered under the Bahamas. And they can even be flown around the world. We got TOW doing it all the time. I think you may have gone and inspect one or two ships under the Bahamas flag. I know when I was first state inspector, I went to Freeport, and thanks to my guest, who's still not here as yet, he arranged for me to actually inspect one or two tankers. He arranged for me to inspect, it was a dive ship that dive and do oil exploration and whatnot. And I went on those ships to do audits, to do inspections under the Bahamas Maritime Authority. And those opportunities, and I can be replicated. I'm only one person. The Defense Force has so many potentially sound persons that can be port state inspectors, that can be flag state inspectors. But we need to start this thing and make sure it's happening. I'm not going to stop until it happens, because the BMA is getting away with just too much nonsense that we have to settle for because nobody's addressing it. Now, I'm going to be addressing it all the time, and thank you for throwing that out as well, because it's people like you and I that are leading this maritime industry as far as Bahamians are concerned. We've had opportunities that others didn't have, so we need to now take the mantle and make sure more opportunities, more people are being given similar opportunities so that they can understand how this thing's supposed to work and what in this maritime area is not being done that technically should be done based on legislation.
Well, just by way of information campaign, just so you be aware, you're absolutely right. And I think the BMA, in my opinion, has done a lot in terms of the international fleet and the training and the offering of scholarships to Bahamians on an annual basis. And fortunately for me, in case you, and just for the listening audience, I am one, myself and Theo Beverly, we are both approved medical inspectors for the BMA. Our jurisdiction extends as far south as Guyana. And so opportunities do exist. It's just, I think from a training perspective and how we integrate maritime affairs into the local school curriculum and having students exposed to the maritime industry at an early stage, rather than everybody being exposed to the glamour of lawyer or doctor or I think maritime affairs need to be integrated in the curriculum. earlier when he asked the question, how can government, how can we make maritime more prominent and more, give it more exposure so that people can be more attracted to the actual industry. And so I think we need to do a lot more in terms of making sure that it's a part of the actual curriculum in schools locally.
I agree with everything you just said, but just so you know, I mean, I'm sure you may be aware, but we have a Bahamas Corps. I see you on the line, and I'll be with you in a second. We have a Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps that basically moves between grade 10 and 12 in high school, and these people are exposed. Hundreds of them are coming out now and joining that cadet corps, and they're going off to train and get certified. But a lot of them, when they get certified, cannot find jobs on ships because nobody's helping them out. Anyway, here, they got to run to the next. I got 2 lines. Let me just run to line 3.
Thank you, Captain Bain, for listening here.
Yes, sir. Thank you for calling in. This is Maritime Matters, caller. I'm sorry for having you wait so long. Please.
No problem.
Hello. You're live on Maritime Matters. Please go ahead.
Hi there, Captain Dan. How are you?
Oh, I am in top shape, my dear. And how are you? I think your radio is still on in the background. If you can just turn your radio off, you're getting a little feedback.
Okay, let me just press feedback. There we go.
Thank you very much.
Better?
That's much better, my dear. Go right ahead.
I'm just wondering, with the maritime industry, the respectable industry in the Bahamas, why do you think, for instance, the government isn't taking this matter more serious? For our kids to be more exposed to it, to know that these jobs are available and this is another outlet for them. To do something different.
I think it stems from the fact that, I'll be licking the Bahamas Maritime Authority until they're blue in the face. The Bahamas Maritime Authority focuses on our international fleet, and they have lost focus on getting Bahamians. One of their mandate is to provide and expand opportunities in the maritime sector for Bahamians. That's their mandate. They just ignore it totally. When I say ignore it totally, they started the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps, but they don't see that jobs are being sought at the end of the line when these people, and it's true entities like the Bahamas Maritime Authority, because they are the agency responsible and mandated by law to ensure that opportunities for Bahamians are being sought. So that's primarily the reason why it's not happening. We got another call on the line. You any further on that question?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Caller, you're live on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Hi, good night.
Good night, sir.
I have a few questions about maritime. Little backstory. I'm 19 years old.
Oh, wow.
I was in the Maritime Cadet Corps from grades 10 to 12.
Fantastic.
I have, as of right now, I have an STCW from last year, May 2021. I also have a Class B captain's license that I just got about a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I am also interested in both deck and engineering, and I am very interested in the maritime field as well as the marine biology part of it. However, the exposure and the experience is kind of a hassle as of right now, especially how I am doing school. I wanted to get your insight on what is the best way to get exposure and experience at this age, at this time.
Yes. Okay. I'll answer that if you hang up. I got 2 more callers on the line, but I'll answer you before I go to another caller. Okay. How do you move from this point? You got your B-class license. You did your STCW. The reality is, in the maritime world, we have an international fleet and we have a domestic fleet. Our domestic fleet are not being required to have certified people because the local safety certificate that Captain Bain, Captain Herbert Bain just talked about is not being enforced. Audits are not being, surveys are not being done on these vessels to ensure that they have qualified people. So people like you who qualify yourself with a B-class license, boat owners would be seeking people like you because they have to have a certified people. Right now people are running those boats and they're not certified, so people don't have to be certified. So once that happens, the door will be flung open for mariners to get captains and engineering jobs on these vessels that are certified to some extent. As far as the international fleet is concerned, yes, you would need an international certification as either rating forming part of a navigation watch, engineering rating forming part of a navigation watch, or an officer forming part of a navigation watch. It's the first certification you can get. And once you get that, you should be able to get a job on a ship by way of the Bahamas Maritime Authority providing and expanding opportunities for Bahamians in the sector. And we can talk a lot about Bahamas Maritime Authority, but the show is a little more about other things, but we're going to focus on that as we move forward. Thank you very much. Which line are we on? I'm Craig. 2 or 3? Let's try line 2. Hello, you're on Maritime Matters. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Captain Green.
Good evening, my dear.
I'm Brian calling out of New York.
Oh, wow.
I'm going back to the first question that was mentioned by Captain Sturdy. My question, I have 2 questions. The first question, why has the Bahamas not implemented the small commercial vessel code to speak to the safety inspection?
Yes, I can answer that one pretty readily. They haven't made that. They're trying to put that in our domestic legislation. But like as you asked, that should technically be a part of that local safety certificate where vessels would be required to comply. Now, just to let you know, the safety vessel, commercial vessel code, quite technically, is for international travel. The Eastern Caribbean countries use that readily because they are going from country to country. In the Bahamas, we have islands stretching all the way out, just like the Eastern Caribbean, but we're still in the same country. So I will not support that regulations or that code, including the Caribbean code of safety for Caribbean cargo ships. I wouldn't support them being used as a domestic code. I think we need to create our own domestic situation. But when vessels are going to travel between the Bahamas and the U.S., Bahamas and Cuba, Bahamas and Puerto Rico, in that regional area, then those codes will come into force. And we have adopted them, and we just need to, like you say, start to put them in place. Do you have a second question, my dear? And you're calling all the way from New York. This is the first time the show had a call from New York. Thank you very much. Is there a second question?
Does the Bahamas Maritime Authority operate domestically?
The Bahamas Maritime Authority is the entity that is supposed to make sure the safety standards in the Bahamas is being maintained, but they are not doing so. They are focusing only on the international ship safety, and there's so much that they have to do to bring the standards. And they're legislated to do it by way of a local safety certificate, but nobody's paying attention to it. So we got to keep hammering on it until they're actually doing it.
Okay, and one last thing. It's not commercial vessel code also speaks to the certification of domestic sea balance.
Yeah, but that's small.
Information on that?
The small commercial code was really put in place for vessels that want to carry more than 12 passengers for hire, right? And that is supposed to augment the Caribbean cargo ship code. So yes, we do have vessels going between the islands that carry more than 12 passengers, and that code can be implemented. But again, to enforce it, we would have to have surveys on those vessels to ensure that the code is actually being complied with. And we don't have any system of surveys because the local safety certificate is not being instituted by the responsible authority, who is the Bahamas Maritime Authority. So thank you very much. We got another 2 lines later. Thank you very much for calling from New York, and thank you for listening to our show, and continue to listen to it. And we look forward to getting more calls from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, line 4. You've been holding for a while. My apologies. Please, you're on Maritime Matters. That person seemed to have gone. Line 3, you're on Maritime Matters. Thank you very much for holding. Do you have a question for us? Okay, so that call is gone. Back to line 4. Okay, so we're going to move to a break. And upon returning, we would go back to what we started to talk about before Captain Bain called in, about the Eastern Caribbean and the Bahamas, and the significant difference between the two. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. Oh, our time is ticking along. Wow, how fast time flies when you're having fun. I know we were going to have ourselves some fun tonight, and we're doing just that. So, since the lines are all clear, I go back to the question that was arising as to the Bahamas being almost the same size of the Eastern Caribbean, yet we have only 3 reception facilities that are available to all cruise ships. In other words, if a cruise ship want to call, it's not a private facility where they will be turned away. That's Nassau, Freeport, and Bimini. While the Eastern Caribbean boasts over a dozen reception facilities that all cruise ships can call at. Excuse me. Why is such facilitation, that is more port infrastructures, not being given utmost priority to enhance the opportunity for more cruise ship stops within our destination, the Bahamas? We have no cruise ship destination for, no port reception facilities for cruise ships other than private cruise ship facilities that only accept only their ships. Abaco doesn't have any. The biggest island in the Bahamas, Andros, doesn't have any. We spoke about trying to put one in Morgan's Bluff, and I think that's a brilliant idea. Eleuthera has none. Cat Island, Exuma, Long Island, Rum Key, San Salvador, Acklands, Crooked Island, Melbourne. These are huge islands, and these are beautiful islands with beautiful beaches, and if you put a docking facility, they will come. So how about us as Bahamians? Just doing IPOs for each one of these islands. We have money. Once we know it's not going to be wasted, once we know we're going to get a big profit, we can put and we can do this. People, let's look into it. Let's not wait for the cruise ship to come along. Like recently, the Disney said they wanted the Lighthouse Point down in Saudi Neutral. And all of a sudden that became a very controversial issue. So if they could do it, why couldn't we put together and do it? Disney can have whatever they want for their ships. But let's go ahead and let's do Freeport. Let's do Andros first. Because that there that's a low-hanging fruit. That's ready to go. Right? Then we look at islands like Cat Island. That Devil's Point area where the ocean almost touches the rock. Come on. There's no way you can tell me we can't put a cruise ship facility, reception facility there without having to do that amount of dredging. Look at Crooked Island, off Landreal Point. The ocean touches the rock. Exuma, Workers' Point area. Come on, we can do this. Long Island, all over the place. I mean, we have a ready harbor in Clarencetown, but we can create cruise ship harbors along that eastern coast of Long Island. In certain areas, we can put a cruise ship, but we can dredge like we did in Freeport Harbor, and have a cruise ship come in, turn around, go to the dock, and be safe. We can do that. And everywhere where these cruise ships have to go, they would need pilots, eh? So how about that? So this is where we want to go. With all those family islands, we want to create a plan where we can put a cruise ship reception facility that can be put in place so that cruise ships can stop all these islands. Think about it. The cruise ship, they all pass the Bahamas to go where they want to go. We are in the front yard of the largest cruise ship home ports in the world. Port Everglades in Miami. Nowhere else in the world they have that many cruise ships being home ported. So when they leave, they can't go anywhere without looking at us. So let's enhance on this. We can't let the Eastern Caribbean have more ports than we have here, and the cruise ships are basically right in the front door of the cruise ships. Anyway, we got a call on the line. Call on your Maritime Matters. Hello.
Namesake, how are you?
Hey, the namesake, but Glenn, I'm my pacer, and I'm extraordinaire.
Yeah, told you that we came out of school, they'll start looking at you funny,
No, man, we came out in the year when all the big generals came out. How are you, sir?
Pretty well. I'm listening to and yourselves, I anticipate
not going to close it. It's just going to keep widening and widening, my friend. We got to get these things done.
It has to, and I know I don't pay no commercial to put a plug in for my book, right? But one of the reasons I wrote the book Reset is because I thought that the global pandemic, the closing down of nations, right?
Yeah.
That we would have taken that closed space to relook at the Bahamas, to begin to envision what kind of Bahamas we want on the other side of this global pandemic. And I would have stayed out of the call and just listen in because the kind of conversation that you bring to the table. But as you spoke to the potential, as you spoke to the workers' point, to the devil's point in terms of the water and other stuff like that, I am challenged to ask myself, what are we looking at in terms of nation building? Because to me it seems as if God gave us a natural place in which is unlimited in potential if we begin to look at it, and that's the point I wanted to make in this process. I'm not too sure, Glenn, that as from a leadership or a national conversation, that we are looking within to see what's in our hand, to see what greatness we have in our hand, and allow the greatness that is in our hand to allow that to be spread to the world. We're still looking outside for resources and means, then we have what we need inside to make great things happen for us. So that's why I said I think this conversation that you're having is opening, it's unlimited, and if the Bible says the treasures are in the sea, then maybe we have to look to the sea for that great level of wealth moving forward.
Thank you so much, Glenwood, for that input. I'm going to hang you up. I have two more callers. I'm just going to briefly expand on what you said, and then I'll answer one of the other callers. Thank you for calling in, my friend. Yeah. My friend Glenn, what he's saying is so powerful. Because, again, the Bahamas and the Eastern Caribbean, there are so many similarities, except they have more than a dozen reception facilities for cruise ships, and we have only 3 that we can open up to all cruise ships. I mean, we are in the doorstep of the two. As a matter of fact, those ports, Port Canaveral and Port Miami, most of those ships that leave there going to the Eastern Caribbean, they got to pass us to get there. The Eastern Caribbean can have over a dozen reception facilities. Why can't we have over a dozen? The Bahamas are supposed to have more money than those countries. Come on, man. We are hurting ourselves. Caller, you on the line. I'm so sorry for having you wait so long.
Good evening, Captain Dan.
Good evening, my boy.
I have a comment. There can also be floating reception facilities. So it doesn't necessarily have to be land-based. It can be a facility that moves about. So you may have one that can attend each one of the islands where the cruise ship frequents, and then the sludge or sewage or whatever can be brought into the mainland and disposed of properly. And also I had a comment about the reception facility that's in Bahama that was via a loan from the IBD bank. And the person that won that is not actually Bahamian. He may have Bahamians employed there now, but the funding for that came via the IBD bank. They won some type of thing that they won through the IBD bank, and they got the loan, and then they expanded on it after a while. I think they're in the process of expanding that now.
Yeah,
It's not easy. There's a big barrier to entry when it comes to these facilities.
that is correct. I agree with you, but for disposal facilities and the like, we can use floating platforms and we can badge things in and out. They don't have to actually come into the harbor to do such things, and we can make a living off that. And as for the foreign entity that got it going in Freeport with an IDB loan or with a loan, we in the Bahamas needs to be a little more aggressive. We have the 2 IPOs for ports in Nassau Harbor. I mean, if you think of our port development and Nassau Cruise Port and the amount of money that those IPOs were put out that had to be turned back to Bahamians, it's testament that we have the money. We have the money, it just needs to be properly organized. So thank you very much for your input. And yes, we need to look into to these areas, and we need to take our country back. We need to hold our country and move it forward positively. And in the maritime sector, we have the means to do it. We have the funding to do it, so it's only a matter of getting it done. Thank you very much for your call, my dear. Maritime Matters, hello, you're on the line. Hello? Is the caller still there? That call is gone. Okay. We have one more call on the line. Let's try and clear the line. Maritime Matters, hello. Good afternoon. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Captain Bain.
Yes, Captain Brain.
I am forced to just expand the conversation relative to the cruise ship facilities and that you have alluded to, and the possibilities and the potential of other islands. But I just want you to think a little bit first, think a little bit out of the box, and just not only the cruise ships, but we have just about every super yacht, every mega yacht that is built and that lives along or home port along the eastern seaboard of the United States. All those yachts and all that traffic, all that boating traffic that emanates from North America and also from Europe, these yachts, their primary destination is the Bahamas, and everything else trickles down from there. But their primary destination is the Bahamas, and with when you look at the construction of harbors and port facilities to accommodate the cruise lines, let's not forget those yachts, those mega yachts that come past through the Bahamas in the thousands annually. If you look at just Stanley Key and Harbor Island and the amount of yachts that you would see in Georgetown Harbor, it's obvious that there is a major potential in this potential for yachting traffic through the Bahamas, but we just don't have the facilities. So you're absolutely on to something, and I think that conversation, and when we look at not only the cruise ship, we look at the yachting and boating traffic in general, there's so much different spin-off, because the Ministry of Tourism now, for example, if you put a facility in Morgan's Bluff, as you would have suggested, you now have cruise ships coming there, you now have mega yachts coming there, you now have opportunities for the local inhabitants of Andros to introduce business and tours and various entrepreneurial activities and the like. And so I think you're definitely onto something, and I just wanted to make sure that we don't only think of it from the standpoint of the cruise line, but think of it from the amount of yachting traffic that passes through the Bahamas, which is phenomenal.
You are absolutely correct, Captain Herbert Bain. I'll tell you that we have a very, very aggressive group, young group of Bahamians, now entered the charter yacht operations from employment perspective. We have engineers, we have captains, we have deckhands, and in addition to that, they have people on board who would be chefs. I mean, qualified chefs working on many yachts in the Bahamas and all over the world, and this is a huge undertaking. And I know that there are some local agencies right now as we speak tying in and engaging the Bahamas Maritime Cadet Corps, because they are looking for hundreds of young Bahamians to employ in the charter yacht operations right here in the Bahamas. They cannot find enough people at this point, and they're seeking all the time. So that by way of them putting facilities in place for cruise ships, remember now, you're not going to have a cruise ship there every day, because if you put facilities all around the Bahamas, there are going to be lots of time when those facilities will be available to mega yachts and that type of thing, so that they can have an opportunity to actually come in, and they wouldn't have to be anchoring and taking a little tender in and out to get to these family islands. So that's an extremely good point. Thank you very much for that input.
Of course, and just to add to that, the point on mega yachts, there's so much a yacht is like a hotel facility. So you not only require captains and deckhands, you require stewardesses.
Stewards, that's right. Cooks, chefs.
You have a masseuse on board. You have
housekeeping.
housekeeping.
You have divers.
There's so many engineers. There's so many different new opportunities. And guess what? When you look at, if you go to any one of the maritime related schools in Florida and elsewhere, when you look on there, there's always a demand for every discipline along the spectrum in terms of that yachting industry, because it turns over so quickly. And hey, if we were to introduce some of this stuff, like I would have indicated earlier in the school, you can imagine how much employment we could offer our young adults, our people who join in the workforce. So that's something to think about.
That's absolutely correct, and I can tell you I've been to some functions of very recent times where this area is being aggressively entered into. So we will have to discuss that in another show. I have somebody coming up in 2 weeks that deals directly with these charter yacht operations and what they propose to do in the Bahamas very soon. So thank you very much, sir.
And not to mention the 4%. Let's not forget that.
Well, that will be coming up in that show. We need to talk about that, and I don't think that will be a problem for these mega yachts. So thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question that I have to put here as we only down to minutes. We started a couple of minutes late, so I guess my good producer will give me 2 or 3 minutes over. So here's the question. This question is a question it's really a hot question. We have cruise ship private islands throughout this country. And we have about 5, well 6, maybe 7 now. We have Disney at Castaway Key. We have Half Moon Key. That's Carnival. We have what else we have? Stirrup Key. We have Coco Key. We have what's the one in the Bimini chain? Ocean Key with MSC. And I've been to some of these. I've been to most of them, as a matter of fact, over the years. And you find that employment on those keys from an immigration perspective, in my opinion, is far too many foreigners. We don't need foreigners to be coming in to do cleaning, coming in to do jet ski operations and parasail operations and that type of thing on these keys. We have too many women who could do these things. And the thing of it, some of these ships are coming in and not even taking pilots. What country in this world would ships be going in and not required to be taking pilots to dock those ships other than the Bahamas? Certainly not nowhere in the region. So when those ships come in, we have to ensure that Bahamian pilots are on board those ships, because even if they don't anchor, we want to know that they're anchoring in an area where they should anchor and not the captain deciding he can anchor anywhere and cause damage to our seabed. So we need those ships to be piloted by Bahamian pilots. Secondly, the owners and operators of those tenders that bring the passengers to and from shore, those tenders need to be owned by Bahamians, because they should come under the Boat Registration Act. And the Boat Registration Act should not, we have a policy in the Bahamas that the transportation industry should be reserved for Bahamians only. There's no way you can tell me that Bahamians cannot own a tendering operations if you can have one Bahamian like Captain Edensdale owning 5 motorboats which are far larger and go far further distances than a tender in this country. Any tendering operation needs to be Bahamian owned and Bahamian operated. Thirdly, on these private keys, the water sport equipment and water sport activities, the jet skis and banana boats, and are they owned by Bahamians? I don't think so. In most cases, they are owned by the cruise lines. And not only owned by the cruise lines, they got people from the cruise lines on the key working those things for the tourists. Why? In this day and time, Bahamians, we have Bahamian jet skis all over Nassau, jet ski operators and owners. The people on the family island could do the same thing. The people from Nassau could go to those keys. I remember there was a time when somebody wanted to go to one of those keys in the Berry Island to operate parasailing and jet skis. And they were shut down. And I wouldn't go into the details, but I can tell you, we need to take our country back when it comes to employment on these keys that these cruise ships own. Engineers for the maintenance of the equipment installed on these keys, the generators and lighting and this and that. We don't need no foreign companies dealing with those. We got too many qualified Bahamians who can do these type things. Security personnel, under the ISPS requirement, they had situations where the cruise ship wanted to bring their security from the ship on the key to screen people. I had to put my foot down with that on many occasions. And I think it's still happening. And if it is, I cry shame on the Bahamians who are working on these keys that are allowing it. We should not have a port facility security officer that is foreign in our country. What nonsense is this? The maritime areas reserved for Bahamians, you can't get it. How are you going to get a work permit to be a port facility security officer in charge of security on a key in this country or at a facility in this country? Oh no. We're going to seek those out and we're going to fix those because no, it ain't happening on my watch. I don't know about anybody else, but we got to stop it. Ownership of golf carts and bicycles and that type of thing on the key. Owned by the cruise ships. They just have people making all the money. Come on, why there can't be Bahamian companies? But we can't rent bicycles and golf carts? We're doing it all the time. We don't need to be competing with cruise ship operators. Do your thing on your ship. Yes, we want you here, but we don't want you exploiting us and taking away from us what belongs to us. Now that's my view on the matter. I'm not taking any more calls. This is the way we're going to end our show. Our time is winding down. My sponsor. My sponsor, and I'll call just the one-on-one pharmacy with my cousin, Shantia Hill McBride, and her beautiful mother, my good cousin, Stephanie. Please visit the one-on-one pharmacy, one located on East Street South, the other one is located on Charles Summers Highway. Let them know I sent you, because you're going to get the treatment of your life. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we end Maritime Matters tonight. I didn't get through all of my questions. My guest didn't show up. But thanks to you, the listening audience, we kept the show on par with any other show in the world. So until next time, this is Captain Glenn Bain. I'm out.
Love 97 FM.